Croce Basilica. San Croce Basilica is a beautiful example of Italian Gothic architecture. The basilica has 16 chapels within it, all made for the various wealthy families of the area. Michelangelo and Galileo both are laid to rest here. The Baroncelli Altarpiece sits inside the Baroncelli Chapel. Before I started this project, I actually wasn't familiar with the Baroncelli name. I did a quick read on it, and it turns out that a member of the Baroncelli family, Bernardo, and a member of the Pazzi family actually took an attempt on Lorenzo and Giuliano de' Medici's life in 1478. So this was after the altarpiece, but it was still, I thought, a bit interesting. Because Giuliano de' Medici ended up dying. He was stabbed multiple times, and Bernardo Baroncelli was hanged in the center square a few hours later. When it comes to this altarpiece, however, it is thought that it was painted by Giotto. His signature was on the bottom of the painting, of the altarpiece. Many of those seem to think that it was done by his student, Sadio Gatti. So the altarpiece itself is 185 by 323 centimeters in size. It is tempera paint on wood, and it is from around 1334. This is another reason why there's some hesitation with Giotto being the painter of it, as there are some discrepancies with the dates of if he was actually in Florence at this time or not. So the frescoes in this chapel were painted by Gatti. The altarpiece was built specifically to be viewed from the same vantage point as you'd be staring at the frescoes on the walls. So yet another reason why it's thought to be Gatti who painted the altarpiece. So this image here is just giving us an idea of where the altarpiece sits in correlation to the frescoes on the wall. I find the way it's sitting, though, it looks to me like it's off center and it's driving me crazy, but that could just be this image. But it's all supposed to be looked at from the same vantage point. Here's just another shot of the altarpiece when it's been removed from its chapel. It's obviously having some work done on it. I just like to see it in this setting because for me personally, reading 185 by 323 centimeters doesn't mean a whole lot, but seeing it like this gives me an idea of just the size that the altarpiece actually is. So this image here is the coronation of the Virgin. Jesus is crowning Mary Queen of Heaven. I chose this panel to look at in particular because I thought it gave some great examples of things we've been speaking about in class. Number one, we see that Mary and Jesus both, they have some mass to them. We can actually see their knees bent beneath the pink fabric. Their arms are bent in such a way where Mary's, we can see the folds of the fabric in her sleeve. We see the shadowing, the chiaroscuro in their faces. The one thing I do see, though, and especially when I look at Jesus and Mary's fingers, is I do see some of that influence from the Byzantine art. We see like Jesus's hands, his fingers in particular, are quite elongated. His arms from the elbow down seem a bit long, as well as his neck perhaps a bit long. But we do see his Adam apple in it. We see a lot of gold in this image too. The archway behind them, which to me, I'm not sure, but I feel like it's a bit of a Gothic arch with a Romanesque influence, so maybe kind of like that in-between crossover period. We see the gold in the halos, the fabric, that pink fabric has a lot of beautiful gold detail to it. The angels on the bottom, we see all four of them. I mean, their faces are obscured a little bit by the halos, but they are there. We see their bent knees, the draping of their fabric. The angel on the right, her foot, you see it's tucked out behind her. And they all seem to have a similar look on their face, though their coloring in their hair and their robes seem to be a little bit different from one another. Here's just a close-up of the image that we just looked at. On the left-hand side, we see this cute, chubby cherub. There's these red cherubs in between all of the panels. And then we just see a bit more of the detailing on the archway. We also see a close-up of Jesus's hands. So for me, his hand just looks very long. His fingers look very long, which doesn't quite go with the rest of his look. However, it all does seem to work, and it's just a very beautiful image. Here we see the altarpiece in a different light. I like this one just because it's really showing off the gold to an extreme extent. We see all of the individual halos, so we're really seeing that spiritual connection in this altarpiece. What I like about it, though, is we see these figures seated in the middle. They are substantial. They're there. Mary and Jesus, we see them. Yet with all of this gold, we still are getting that higher power feeling from it. The divinity is definitely there. So these are from the right side on the panel. They are the angels here that are playing instruments. What I chose this panel for was just to kind of look at a couple aspects of it. Number one would be those angels blowing into those horns. We see their cheeks puffed out. We see the shadowing on their faces. We also see a lot of gold on this with the angels' wings and their halos and some of the details on that blue outfit. There looks like to be a lot of gold trim on it. The angel in the center wearing black, it looks to me like we see like the folds in her neck skin. I don't know if that's just wearing on the painting, but to me it looks like we're actually seeing some of those characteristics that everybody has on their bodies. We see on the left hand some angels singing and whatnot. These angels all seem to have slight differences to their faces as well, but they all feel like they're actually there, especially the one in blue. We see his knees bent, the way his arms are bent, holding the horn that he's blowing into. It's I think a great example of some of the things we've been looking at in class. Again, this is just another viewpoint of the chapel and the altarpiece. Baroncelli Altarpiece in the chapel at San Croce in Florence.